an Empire Boxing and Unlearning Network production.
Welcome back to the Empire Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay, and tonight I'm honored to introduce the WBA Super Featherweight Champ, Lamont Roach Jr. His current record stands at 24 with 9 coming by way of knockout, 1 loss and 1 draw. Lamont was a decorated amateur, winning gold in both National Golden Gloves and the Youth National Championships, all while studying mechanical engineering at the University of Maryland. He also claimed a bronze medal at the Klitschko Brothers tournament in Ukraine and was honored by USA Boxing for Outstanding Boxer of the Year award for his performance. He signed with Golden Boy shortly after and then went pro, going undefeated his first 20 fights. Lamont, like I said, probably one of the most padded intros that I've ever read out. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for your time.
Man, thanks for having me. It's an honor.
And let's just highlight here for a second. I was saying this in the pre-show. You've got quite the backdrop there. So these are your boxing accolades, all the things that you've collected along your journeys?
Not all of them. There's actually some accomplishments from my brother and sister as well too. But most of those are mine. And
so you have 2 siblings only, brother and sister?
Yes, a little brother and a little sister. My little sister just officially became a doctor.
Wow.
She graduates med school in May. And she's a surgeon at VCU College.
Wow, so a really accomplished family. Are they athletically inclined as well, or just yourself?
My little brother is following in my footsteps. He is former number one seed or number 1 nationally ranked at 112 pounds for USA Boxing. He lost in the Olympic trials, so soon I think he'll be starting his professional journey.
Oh, that's so cool. And then so you can kind of also give him the insights and kind of counsel him on what that's like to turn pro. How does, what would you say to your brother as he's kind of probably debating whether he wants to go for Olympics in the next 4 years again, stay as an amateur, turn pro? How do you give him advice, and what kind of things do you think about that?
Well, I tell him to follow his heart. You're more inclined to succeed where you're most passionate because you'll put your all into it. So if he feel like he has his goals fixated on the Olympics, I think he can achieve it. He was just about this close. So, he was throughout the last year and a half, he's been traveling with the USA team, competing in international tournaments, just like me, but his was on a different level. He was actually on the high performance team, like as the number 2 spot for the Olympic spot. So,
wow.
I was on the USA team and I competed internationally, but I wasn't competing to be on the Olympic team per se. He was actually competing to be on the Olympic team.
Wow, incredible journey. And so how often do you guys train together? Does he look to you for some advice, some pads, some sparring? What kind of?
Every day. We train together every day. We do strength and conditioning. We have the same strength and conditioning coach. And we obviously have the same coach and our dad at the gym.
Amazing. So tell me about the early days kind of growing up between, I think you said Washington and Maryland, Washington, D.C. How did boxing come into your life?
Well, boxing came into my life, honestly, it was like indirectly. It was for my cousin Jermaine, my late cousin Jermaine Roach. My dad took him to the gym to sign him up for boxing, and then he just asked me if I wanted to do it. So it was a wrap. Right there, ever since I stepped in the gym, I never took a break. I've been boxing ever since I was 9 years old.
Wow. And you were, I think I was reading you also played some football or something as well in school.
Yeah, football was my first love, for
really,
sure.
Yes. So at what point did you kind of have a chat with yourself and go like, I don't know, I could pursue football, I could pursue boxing, where's my heart lie? What was that like to make that decision?
When I got to high school, I noticed that the kids are getting bigger and I'm losing weight to make weight for fights and stuff like that. So they're constantly growing and I'm just right here like, all right, I got to watch what I eat at lunch today and all that stuff. So, and then knowing the fact that there's hundreds and thousands of kids that are just as good or better than me in my position where I would, play football, not only probably better than me, but bigger than me, faster than me, all that stuff. At the time, I was #1 ranked nationally in my age and weight. So I'm like, look, I'm the best. I'm the best at football. I know that. I mean, at basketball. I mean, at boxing. I'm sorry. I'm the best boxing, hands down, because I'm #1 in the nation. Football, I don't know about that. It's around the nation, there's about 1,000 other people that's better than me. So it was like, all right, here we go. Then I'm just gonna stop.
Right. And then what was that like? Was your family behind you when you kind of really started getting the taste for boxing and wanted to take that more seriously?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it wasn't more so me just taking it seriously. It was just like, all right, I'm going to take it on full-fledged, because it's not like I was half-stepping. When I was playing football, I would go to the gym and train. I would do my boxing training first and then go from the gym to the football field all the time. Yeah, so it's just like football fell by the wayside drastically because I wasn't playing anymore. Right. And it was up from there.
Where did you get this sort of, I guess, resilience and tenacity to have that kind of a pace at that age, kind of getting involved in everything you were getting involved in, but not forsaking your education? Like, where does that come from?
I think it's the way I grew up, the way I was raised, the way I grew up. I grew up kind of like, kind of rough. Like I was a rough kid. I was outside. I enjoyed sports. I enjoyed competing. I enjoyed just being around like my family and friends and stuff like that. And those are the things we did. We played sports. We played games. We played tackle football in the street. You know what I'm saying? So like I grew up with them bumps and bruises. I grew up with them bumps and bruises. And that's how I was. I was an outside kid for sure. So I was rugged. I was rough. And I was always determined to be the best. I think that was just in me since I was born, probably, because I always wanted to be the best at anything I did.
Yeah. And do you see those same qualities in, when you look into your sister and brother and what they've been able to accomplish too?
Yes, definitely. I definitely do.
Yeah, that's blood then. That's running in y'all's veins, right?
Yeah.
Now, so you faced Gervontea Davis in the amateurs, am I correct?
Yes.
What did you think about him as a fighter then, and then looking ahead at his career now? And also, I'll flip that question onto yourself. Like back in those days as an amateur boxer, I think your record was 125-15, like crazy accomplished amateur fighter. And then now reflecting on where you're at now, start with Gervontea and then tell me about yourself.
He always was a good fighter. Like he always at national tournaments too. Mind you, so he's from Baltimore and I'm from Washington, D.C. It's close on the map and like to everyone else that's not from here, but from like Baltimore from here is probably like an hour 30 away. So it's not like we see them, but we see them in the fights all the time. Like every weekend we come to the fights like, oh, we know what that is. We know what that is. So he always had a name for himself. His name, like you said, his name has always been Tank since a little kid. So everybody knew him. He was very charismatic. He was very charismatic as a kid. He did the flips, the back flips and stuff like that after fights and stuff. So, and then he grew with the sport. And as he got older, he got better and better and better and turned into a superstar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then yourself, like looking back at that young kid, 125 fights, like, you're grinding through the amateurs, and then now looking at your career and what you've accomplished now, like, what do you stop and think when you reflect on that?
I just, like, when I actually do, like, when I sit back and look, I was like, man, I put that work in. I didn't put it in for no reason. Like, I'm here. Yeah. I'm here for a reason. I put in the work. I belong here. And now I'm a world champion. I accomplished my first goal as a professional. So now it's time to tackle the bigger goals, and now it's time to tackle the bigger money too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then you've got a mandatory coming up, it sounds like, and there was quite some deliberation around that fight with Carol. What was that? Tell us that from your side.
Well, that mandatory it wasn't supposed to come so soon based on their ruling, because I took the belt from the champ. I didn't fight for a vacant championship. I wasn't elevated to champion or anything like that. I took the belt from the champ, and we have a certain amount of time before we have to fight our mandatory. And they announced it pretty soon. which is fine. Honestly, John O'Carroll's not any of my worries. I'm not overlooking him or anything like that, but I know what I'm capable of, and I know he is nowhere near my level. But just to be clear, we're working on a title defense first because we have a certain date to fight the mandatory. So we're doing a title defense first, and so be it. If the day comes, I will have to fight John. I will have to fight John O'Carroll, and that will probably happen. So I will beat him up very bad.
It is like, you do get a sense of, who's in the division, who you're looking out over your shoulder for, who you're not. But would you say it's also like fairly important, like when someone's fighting up, they're going to come with everything they have. So would you say it's fair to also, you can't really underestimate anyone.
Exactly.
Have you ever been in there where you've underestimated someone and it went wrong?
No, I don't think, because I work hard no matter who's in front of me, so it's not like I slack off or I'm like, oh, this guy's nothing. Because I know how boxing is. I know you're not supposed to underestimate anyone, and I know one punch can change a fight. It doesn't have to be based on skill, doesn't have to be based on intelligence or anything. One punch that lands in the right spot can change the entirety of the fight. So I always work hard, and I never underestimate anyone.
Yeah, I think that's just the attitude to take in too, isn't it? Now, looking back, the fight that you had, I believe it was the WBO International Super Featherweight in Puerto Rico. Walk us through that fight, because like you just said, one punch can change a fight, right? And, it was ruled a slip, but I think by all records, that was clean. What was that like for you? What emotions were going through your mind at the time?
Well, after that fight, when they announced the draw, I was hurt. Mind you, I never lost, and I never had a draw. So, as a professional, so when that happened, I was just distraught. I'm not gonna lie, I was in the locker room. I was like depressed. I was crying, crying, all that. Like, I didn't like how that felt, because I know I beat him, and for sure I know that was a knockdown. So. You know what I'm saying? So that was just a feeling that I never wanted to feel again. So that I really trained my butt off. After that, and I went on the road, and I worked myself up to a world championship, my first world championship.
And how does that shift of mindset happen for you? Like, you're feeling, robbed, you're feeling hurt, you're feeling kind of targeted, like the fight was in Puerto Rico, he was Puerto Rican. Like, how do you go from feeling like, oh man, I've just been done, to, okay, I got to shake my head out of this and work my ass off and focus on the next fight? Like, how does a fighter go through that shift?
Well, speaking from personal experiences, like, I'm not in this for nothing. Like, I'm going to go get what I'm after, for sure. So even if there's a bump in the road or, obstacle, a roadblock, we're going to get through it somehow, some way. And that was one of the little bumps that was on my journey to becoming a world champ.
Yeah. Turning that situation that, you were totally justified to feel that way into, like, framing it as a bump is really admirable, for sure. Now, you said that a couple times. You said, I'm not here for nothing. But so what is it you fight for, Lamont?
I fight for myself. Just I'm gonna tell you the couple things I fight for. I fight for myself because I pride myself on my work. If I'm putting in work to do something, I'm going to do it at my best ability all the time. And because no one wants to be labeled a loser at their job. This is what I chose to do for a living. This is what I chose to do to provide for myself, to provide for my family. This is what I do to keep, to keep my life going. Like, that's what I do. So I want to be the best. I want to be able to do what I know how to do, get compensated as well as I can, and put my name in the record books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, and it's a tough career path. Like, Not everyone's cut out for that. And, the early stages of being pro come with their challenges, especially when you are trying to provide, as you say. So what kind of obstacles did you run through, like as an early pro, trying to, who did you trust, who didn't you trust, or negotiating pay, managers, promoters, all these things are like a whole new embarkment. Did you have people guiding you? Was that difficult?
Sure.
Did you come across any obstacles?
No, my professional slate was pretty clean. It was pretty successful. I would, for either younger fighters or fighters that are going to turn pro, if I were to give a blueprint, I would kind of give the way my career has went. I'm managed by my father. I'm trained by my father. At first, I was trained by my cousin Bernard Roach, and unfortunately, he passed away in 2017. But my dad took over as head trainer. But I was managed, and so now I'm managed and trained by him. So my full trust is in my father for sure. When I was signed to Golden Boy, Robert Diaz is the one who signed me. He's the one who signed me. Oh, man, they gave me a thumbs up.
I was going to say.
Yeah, Robert Diaz is the one who signed me, and even though I'm not with Golden Boy, and he's not with Golden Boy either, he's still part of my team. Robert Diaz was the matchmaker at Golden Boy, but he definitely helped my dad. Him and my dad guided my career beautifully. They got me the right fights early. They didn't just put trash cans in there with me. They got me the right fights, the fights that I needed to progress as a professional. And they kept me financially stable. I mean, I think I earned pretty well. I earned pretty well under their banner. My dad and Robert, they blessed me. And they got me beautiful opportunities. And awesome. They're still doing it. They're still doing it.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of talking to Roberto Diaz a few weeks back, and what a gem! A good man in the sport of boxing by all accounts. Everyone that I talk to that knows him has nothing but good things to say. He's truly there for the boxers, and I think that's a huge, like you were talking about, the idea of the blueprint is when you can have faith in the people that are around you that have your best interest in mind. It truly does make such a difference in the early stages of a successful pro career, which sounds like, you've been blessed by that, as you say. Now, tell me a little bit more about the dynamic with, having your dad as your trainer and your manager. Is that difficult at times? Is that smooth? What's that like for you guys?
Not smooth. I will say it's very smooth. Me and my dad are a tandem, man. We work hand in hand. And I'm just so grateful that he is able to, because a lot of parents don't, especially that are involved with their children's professional lives. He knows how to separate being a dad and being a manager. He knows how to separate being a dad and being a trainer. So that's what we have. We have a beautiful relationship as father and son. And we're in the managerial or coaching position will never overshadow that.
Oh, that's so important, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And did your dad learn the ropes, to help you sort of real time? Were you guys just all, with a bit of Roberto Diaz's guidance, but you guys were kind of just all figuring it out together real time, working as a team?
Well, my cousin before he passed definitely gave my dad the game. He definitely soaked it up. His name is Bernard Roach. He trained the likes of Chop DeMarcus Corley when he was world champ. He actually trained him when he won his first world championship. He trained the likes of Andrew Council, Maurice Adams from Washington, D.C. He helped in many accounts with Adrian Davis, just assisting them guys. He's been around the likes of Ray Leonard and stuff like that. He also was a fighter too. he fought in the Olympic. He fought in the Seoul, Korea Olympic trials. So the trials for, I forget what year that is. It might be 88.
Yeah, Korea, Seoul. Yeah, I don't know off the
It
top,
might be. But he fought in those trials too, and he lost to Vern Force. So he definitely been around the game for a long time. And,
definitely influential in that decision making for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So once he passed, my dad really just put on his cap. He put on his cap and he kept the ball rolling. He kept the ball rolling for sure.
Yeah. So I would love to kind of hear from your experience. I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of fighters, and everyone has such a unique journey in their pro debut. Yeah. What went through your mind? What was the emotion like when you step into your first pro fight? Walk us through that moment.
Man, my first pro fight was crazy, honestly. So I fought at home. And I'm going to tell you the card I fought on. I fought on the HBO card, headlined by Bernard Hopkins versus Beirut Shumanov for the light heavyweight world championship. I know for a fact, Paulie versus Sean Porter was on there. Peter Quillen fought on that card.
Stacked.
Yes, it was stacked. I promise you, it was stacked. So with those names being out there, because I know someone else fought on that card too, but with those names being out there, I didn't fight like the walk-in bout or the walk-out bout. I fought right before the television cast started. So I fought right before the TV opener. And we fought in the DC Armory Arena. And I tell you, the crowd was crazy. It was filled up already. Lights, cameras, phones, everywhere. So when I'm walking out, the atmosphere is just crazy. Like, I'm like, I could get used to this. You know what I'm saying? But it's like natural nervous energy. But I was just like, man, all these people, like, they here to see everyone else. But a lot of these people, because I'm at home, a lot of these people's here to see me.
Wow.
So it was, honestly, my pro debut was a thing of beauty, honestly. Like, I got to perform in front of my family, friends, and obviously got some new fans too because of how stacked the card was. So they was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it's something to remember for a lifetime. If you're cool with it, I'd love to ask you some questions about your experience and your opinions on how you choose a promoter. Cool. So choosing a promoter that you want to sign with, what goes into your mind in making that decision? Or I guess with the counsel of your stacked also team behind you there?
Well, yeah, every decision like that was made, my dad had presented it to me. We got offers from the likes of like Al Heyman, and we got offers from Oscar De La Hoya, obviously. We got offers from Mike Tyson when he was doing his promotion. I forget what it was. Iron Mike Promotions, I think, something like that.
Yeah. We
got an offer from them. We actually flew out and talked to one of their guys and stuff like that. I want to say Deerfield or somewhere out in Florida, like right outside of Miami or Fort Lauderdale, one of them. And just to see what it was like. But just choosing a promoter, we weighed our options. And we went with the route that seemed more feasible, far as security with dates.
Right.
Without getting into specifics, number of fights and anything like that, like whatever made the most sense for my career. And I'm glad we went the way we did.
And what do you think when it talks of what's most ideal for your career? Like, what is that kind of starting out? Like, you're looking for a certain number of fights that year to keep you active, the right kind of fights, the right kind of pay. Like, these are the kind of things that are going through your mind, right?
Exactly, yes. And those are the things that, were brought to the table. Some offers were lack of, some offers weren't. And, I think the offer that we choose to run with was was the best. It actually was the best.
Awesome. Yeah, great. And then, I mean, such an important decision to put like a lot of thought and care into that process. So and I'm glad that turned out to be a decision that you're happy with. I'm a huge, strength and conditioning junkie. And so I would love to know a little bit about, you were talking about doing your S&C with your brother. I would love to know what kind of like, let's call it, I mean, because boxing doesn't really have an off season like other field sports, but let's talk about it like post fight, you're in between starting your next camp. What does your S&C like look then? And then how do you ramp that up into a camp?
So with my crazy coach, my crazy strength and conditioning coach, man, he's just an expert at peaking at the right time. So even though there's no off season, like once I get back into the gym after a fight, my well-deserved break, we start off slow, we get back into the groove of things, and then, we do moderate things as far as strength, conditioning as well. But it's like we're in the gym every day. So strength and conditioning, we go either 3 or 4 times a week. But it's he does a very good job at keeping us on point. So when we get into camp, it's full blast, and we start off heavy.
Right.
We start off heavy, and then we break it down. We break it down as the camp goes, and he's a genius at peaking at the right time. He definitely is.
And that's absolutely what you need, right? I mean, that's the most important part. A lot of fighters, there's high risk of injury and illness and all sorts of things in camp. So keeping your fighter dosed with the right level of intensity and the right level of volume is super important. Otherwise, it can actually, cost you the fight. Let's talk a little bit about the weight cut too. How much do you generally try to go? Like, I'm guessing you do your weight cut and then you put on a little bit of weight after the fight. How much are you trying to put on? And like, what's your maximum, your ceiling limit for that?
I don't have a target goal. I just, if I feel like I'm fat, I'm going to go. I'm going to change my eating habits, and I'm going to run for a long time, and then I'm going to step. No, I'm not going to step on the scale. Honestly, I'm scared. I'll be scared because if I see a number I don't like, then I'm just like, all right, you pushing it.
Right.
But but being in the gym keeps me at when I'm working out, I'm at a healthy weight that if I start camp, I can start camp at any time because I'm not heavy. I'm not heavy at all. Well, especially when I'm in the gym. I'm training twice a day. So there's no reason for me to be, fat. So it's no reason for me to be over a certain amount of pounds of my fight weight. You know what I'm saying?
Right. For sure.
That's uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I ask because I'm a nutritionist, but I'm very interested in combat sports nutrition. And, there's like the UFC PI, for example, suggests like 8% body weight, like mass increase, like after a fight to their scale
UFC
weight.
People are. UFC, right? They do it crazy.
They do crazy, and
they do it crazy.
There's a lot of data now that suggests that between 8 to 10% of like above your scale weight is what you should be gaining, and then at the minimum 2 weeks to cut that. So I'm always curious what fighters are doing, especially guys like successful like yourself. You're doing something right. You know what I'm saying? So I like to get a feel for that. Now, I got a question for you that it's a big question maybe, but we'll chat it through and we'll see how you kind of evolve with your thoughts on it. But if there were anything, what kind of aspects of like our current boxing, the current system that is boxing right now, would you like to see changed, if any?
That I would like to see change.
From like an industry standpoint, promoters, from an organization perspective, bureaucracy perspective, if anything, there may be nothing, but if anything comes to mind.
Boxing fans.
Yeah, okay.
Boxing fans are the worst fan base ever.
Okay, tell me why you think that.
Lie. They are the worst fan base ever. I'm going to tell you why. Fighters can be somebody's favorite fighter for I don't know how long, or somebody that they like, somebody they enjoy seeing, they lose one time. And he's the worst fighter in the world. He's trash. He's this, he's that. Whoop-de-whoop. It's so crazy. I mean, like, boxing fans are terrible when it comes to that. Like,
Interesting.
they do not, a lot of them do not ride or die with a good fighter, especially if they feel like they were a fan. And then next thing you know, because it's like, it's even, they do it to champions. They do it to unified champions. They do, all of a sudden they trash as soon as they lose. All of a sudden they trash as soon as they have a bad performance. Like, it's just crazy. They just automatically resort to, oh, he's a bum. He's the worst in the world. Boxing fans, you got to understand, it's going to be like that sometimes. Somebody has to lose. I mean, it could be a draw. But most of the time, somebody's going to lose. And that does not mean that they are a terrible fighter because they lost. They probably fought a guy who was better than them or better than them that night, got the best of them that night, or hit them with a good punch and knocked them out.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It ain't going to happen to me, but it's going to happen.
Let's be clear.
It's evident. It's going to happen.
It's interesting you say that because I was just talking with Barack Bess today from the Atkenbrack show, and we were talking about it came up that boxing, there is this expectation that you can't lose, and there's no other pro sport where like a tennis player won't go undefeated.
They don't get bashed. They don't get bashed as soon as they lose. They don't.
And yeah, so it's very interesting you say that. I tend to agree. I heard a really interesting quote. I'll see what you think about this, but it was, in mixed martial arts, you can lose, but you have to be exciting. And in boxing, you don't have to be exciting, but you can't lose.
Yeah, that's deep.
So let's think about the last Shakur Stevenson fight, right? Like, how much flack was he getting from the boxing community about that being a boring fight? You know what I'm saying?
He got a lot of flack. He got a lot.
Right. And then you got right? You got UFC that, you got these guys that have, pretty 50-50 records, 60-40 records, but they're, flying knees and fucking taking crazy damage, and none of that's great, but like the fans will eat that up. So you're right. There is a huge difference between even like the MMA fan and the boxing fan. And what do you think would have to change, in a fan to think differently about the boxing experience? Or do you think it's up to the people who are in the business of boxing to send the message?
Oh, that would be a good idea, yeah. But it'll take a lot because boxing fans are like renegades. They're not a collective. They're not a collective at all. They're like renegades. So they run on their own, and which is fine, because boxers are on teams or whatever the case will be. Yeah. So we'll see. I honestly don't think it'll get better. And if it does, it'll take a long time.
Right. Do you think that if there were more emphasis on sort of getting to know early stage pros and pros as they're beginning their career from, 0 to 10 fights, 10 to 20 fights, do you think if there was more of a story and an emphasis around getting to know these people, that we would be able to develop more of like a diehard ride or die sort of fan of that fighter, regardless of wins and losses?
I think so. I think so for sure. But it's going to be hard. Yeah. That's going to be hard. Everybody doesn't have the platform. Everybody doesn't. That's how boxing is. You have to be very attractive, sales, fighting style, whatever the case may be. Promotion for that to happen. See, because everybody isn't a diehard boxing fan. Most people are casuals. So when they see a fighter and they adopt a fighter as their favorite fighter, then they go back and see what they've been through. So that helps build, and then you have word of mouth and everything like that, because eventually they're going to become a superstar, or they're already a superstar.
Right. And then let's flip it into some, well, kind of on the topic, I guess. Like, now we've got this kind of crossover boxing world coming in, and you've got people gaining a lot of attention, a lot of fan focus without necessarily the resume that like someone like yourself would have, slipstreaming the system sort of. I've heard so many different perspectives on it, from Roberto Diaz to Barack to, Ghost Guerrero. I've heard everyone's different perspective. And to be honest with you, I'm getting a really solid 50-50 as to whether people think it's good for boxing or it's bad for boxing. What's your opinion on it?
See, at first I was on that it's bad for boxing trade. But I think it takes something. I think for something to get greater, I think it takes sometimes for something bad to happen so that it can break down and rebuild. There's a lot of guys getting a lot of paydays who haven't done half the things I've done as a boxer.
Right.
For instance, Francis Ngannou. He has 2 professional fights, and he's made somewhere up to 40 million.
0-2.
0-2. 0-2.
0-2.
50 million. He doesn't have to box. He doesn't have to lift a finger anymore. He is financially set for his life, his kid's life, and his kid's life. Yeah. He does not have to do 2 fights in. Yeah, he didn't. 2 fights in.
And they're talking about, trying to match him with Deontay Wilder. I'm like, you're going to go 0-3, and you're going to be one of the richest heavyweights in boxing history. That's crazy. That's crazy,
right? One thing I can vouch for is one person I can vouch for, and definitely Jake Paul. I definitely didn't like what he was doing when I first seen him because he just entered boxing through YouTube and made a shit ton of money. But now he has his own promotion. He's signing fighters, young fighters, early in their career, matching them and getting them paid. He's also raising the stakes for women's boxing with Amanda Serrano, getting her paid at least $1 million a fight. When women weren't making that money, they weren't making that money, and they probably still aren't. So I applaud Jake Paul. I applaud. He's what he's doing is great. What he's doing is great for boxing. He has what is it called? I don't know what it's called. But he has his own series, like where he has fighters that are in the heat of their career and he's matching them. And they're not fighting for pennies or anything. Like they're fighting on the Zone Network, where boxing fans know to go for fights. And they are fighting for good money. They are fighting for good money at a good point in their career. They're not fighting for pennies at this point in their career, where a lot of people, some people started off like even champions. Some of them didn't have the big backing of the promotional company or whatever the case may be, and fought in their hometown for probably $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever the case may be, a lower amount. But Jake Paul is putting them guys that he's finding them guys, signing them and putting them in the ring for a good cause and making fan-friendly fights. So I applaud Jake Paul for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. He definitely gained the respect back with what he did with his entrance in boxing. Whether him actually fighting is good for boxing or not, or just a bit of a sideshow, whatever.
He's stealing, but he's giving it back. He's like Robin Hood. Robin Hood.
So he gets some respect back for that as in terms of his business engagement in the sport. I think too. I couldn't agree more. I think there's a lot to even see change slightly in boxing, like on that note. And he's sort of at the kind of the lead of it, which is really interesting how that turned out. Because I definitely remember being the same way. I was like, oh God, no. But we are seeing some crazy stuff happening in boxing. We're seeing all these old guys coming back out of retirement with a bloodlust. Our boy Manny was making some noise, got shut down a little bit. Poor Manny. Yeah. But then, that's encouraged a lot of older fighters, including Mike Tyson. against Jake Paul. Speaking
I'm
of,
scared. Of
yeah,
that.
speaking of both
I
those
don't
men, what do you think about that?
Hopefully they fight with headgear. From my understanding, they aren't. But Jake Paul, Mike Tyson doesn't need to be getting hit by. How old is Jake Paul? 26.
Yeah, he's 28, so he's 27 something, and then we got
27.
58 years, so it's like 30-year age gap.
Yes, and then Mike Tyson hasn't been hit by a live dog with small gloves, and I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Him and Roy were at least in the same boat. You know, they were at least in the same boat. They fought with bigger gloves and stuff. So it was just, I don't think they should let that happen. They shouldn't let that. They shouldn't let that happen to a legend in the sport.
I was going to say, I feel like for me, the biggest issue is I feel like it tarnishes his legacy. So, you know, you got all these new fans that are kind of coming up following, you know, Jake Paul, just getting their toes wet in boxing. And, you know, people that know the sport, or people, you know, my generation, you know, your generation, Mike is a king. And then all these new fans he's going to be known as a meme, you know, if he loses that fight, right? So I think it really tarnishes his legacy. I don't know if that's worth the payday, but I'm not Mike, and I'm not his bank accounts. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see.
You are right about that. You are right. I'm glad he's getting paid, but it's just like, I don't know if you need to take that for that pay. Yeah, for what cost?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, and then we've got some, you know, social media making the boxing world pretty electric and pretty crazy with, you know, what's going on with Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. And there's a lot of speculation that fight is going to be canceled. People looking to step in. I think even Shakur said he wanted to step in. So how are you feeling about how that's playing out? Like, I mean, as someone who's also, you know, you're in the pool of people trying to use social media to market yourself. And when does it go too far? How do you feel about what's happening?
I don't know, man. I think Ryan's making a fool of himself. I think he's making a fool of himself for sure. I mean, whether he's putting on a show, whether he's being dead serious, either way, it looked like he needs some help. But he said who isn't going to say that they're fit to fight? But it is what it is, man. I seen him drink a wine bottle on live, finish a bottle of wine. He's in camp.
Yeah.
What are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And Devin's doing the right thing by just training hard like he should.
Yeah.
It's not entertaining his antics, or I don't know, it might be a cry for help. I don't know. You know, like it might be a cry for help, or he just really just like, you know, have some things going on that he should take care of. Hopefully somebody get him some help if this is his real life. But other than that, if it isn't, it's not phasing Devin. Devin's going to be ready to fight come April 20th. Nobody knows if Ryan's going to be ready to fight April 20th.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, let's take it back to you. Let's put the fan hat on yourself. What fight would be, you know, a fight you would be interested in seeing this year? What matches are not made, or what matches are made that you're really looking forward to seeing?
I want to see. Let me see. The Errol Spence fan in me wants to see Errol versus Bud 2. But that don't look like it's gonna happen. The fights that are happening that I would like to see, Tank versus Frank Martin is definitely going to be explosive.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be quick, but very explosive and very entertaining. Fire versus fire. So that's what that's going to be for sure. I'm honestly intrigued to see Ryan and Devin. The hype has been built up for I don't know how long, excluding the I don't want to say craziness because it might offend people, but you know, it's excluding his antics.
Yeah,
it might be all of what we want, you know, in a fight that's been brewing for years. Who else is about to fight?
We got some heavyweights. We got Usyk and Fury coming up.
Usyk and Fury, yes, I can't wait to see that.
We got Tzu. Actually, that was
versus
just
Fondora.
Yeah, because Thurman has pulled out, so we got that fight coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know.
Inoue is fighting again.
Inoue is fighting Luis Neri.
Neri, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be perfect for fans. Neri isn't a guy that's going to run or shy away from combat, so that's going to be fire versus fire too. But there's a lot of fire on Inoue's side, and we don't know how much fire Neri still has, but I know that Inoue is a beast.
Yeah,
he's a beast. Canelo's fighting Jaime Munguia. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see that.
It's going to be a decent year for fighting, actually. There's some really good fights. So, and all these people talking, the best aren't fighting the best. And, this was a good point that Barack made was like, people have been complaining about that forever. It doesn't matter what fights, what matches you make. People are going to complain the best aren't fighting the best. And in reality, we've got a bunch of really good fights coming up this year. Lots to look forward to.
For the past 2 years, we've been getting very good fights.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, I guess the fans still complain.
Yeah. I understand where they're coming from, especially ones who know boxing. Like obviously you had a super high division at 135 where you had when Devin was at 135 and was undisputed champion. You had Devin, Tank, Ryan, Shakur, Frank Martin, who else? Lomachenko,
yep.
Teofimo Lopez. And I'm going to throw Kambosos in there because he beat Teofimo.
Yeah.
But I don't think he deserves to be in that category.
That's fair.
Right now, especially after his performance against Lax E.
Yeah, that's fair.
So only a few of them guys fought each other. And Devin and Loma happened, last year? Mm-hmm. Teofimo fought Loma when Loma had a lot of belts. All of them, kind of. Well, except one, because Teo had the other belt, and Loma was franchise champ. He was Ring Magazine champ, WBO champ, and WBA champ, and Teofimo was IBF. So that was a unification for almost undisputed because Devin Haney was the WBC champ. Mm-hmm. And but Lomachenko was the WBC franchise champ, and they didn't give him they didn't label him undisputed, which is fair, that I believe. But they fought. Then Kambosos beat Teo. Then Devin beat Kambosos, and Tank fought Ryan. Ryan quit. And that's it.
Yeah.
When all those guys could have fought each other.
Yeah.
So that's what boxing fans are looking at. And I understand it, but I understand the business side as a boxer as well. So I understand why some of those fights didn't happen. I get it. Yeah. But we got like out of that division, we got a little something,
Yeah.
Got a little something. Terrence and Errol Spence finally fought. That was one that was brewing for we don't know how long.
Long time. Yeah.
Very long time. Who else? Anthony Joshua and Usyk fought twice. Mm-hmm. And we had some good fights. Inoue became undisputed in 2 weight classes. 115 was on fire for a minute. Roman Chocolatito and Estrada and I want to say Quadros, but that was a while ago.
Yeah.
The last couple of years was good.
It has been good. Yeah,
the last couple of years was good for boxing.
Yeah. And then, speaking of fights that may never happen, I'd love to know what your fantasy matchup for yourself would be. You can choose anyone, any weight class, past, present, or future, retired or expired. Who would you like to fight? Why? And how would that fight go?
I'm gonna say. Let me see if I get it. Oh, is it Edwin Valera? Is that his last name?
Valera?
Valera?
Yeah.
Edwin Valera, the 135-pound knockout artist.
Okay.
That would have been that. I think that would be a good crazy fight. He was really he was a bad mofo. From what I saw and what I've been seeing, I wouldn't necessarily say I was a crazy fan, but he was so dominant in his reign before he went away. So I would say that, and maybe Mike Tyson. If I was a heavyweight,
yeah,
in his prime,
yeah, Iron Mike,
Iron Mike, the real Iron Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. So curious if you could still play some football. You could step on the field today.
Nah.
Nah.
Too small.
Yeah.
I can. So against guys who don't play football, yes. Oh, I have a field day. I have a field day. But with football players, no, it's not at all.
And then, so what's next for you? What kind of goals and aspirations and dreams do you have that you're projecting for this year, years to come? What's next for Lamont Roach Jr.?
This year, I want to be at least unified, at least a unified champ. So if any of the champions see this, I want to fight you, and that's any champion, no cut cards. But if I want to be specific, hopefully Oshaki is ready to fight in the summer. After I do my voluntary defense, if I can put my mandatory on hold, that will happen for that fight, for that unification. And then I will fight O'Carroll and show him that he's been waiting for a butt whooping for a long time. But I want to be unified. I want to be unified for sure. Then later, I want to be a multi-division world champ, so I want to move up and fight at 135 and become world champion at 135. And I want to rake in. I want to make good fights. I want to make good fights, good fan-friendly fights. I want people to remember me. Right. I want people to know that hey, that guy fought and beat a lot of good fighters.
Wicked. Yeah. And then what about in your personal life? What things are going on in conjunction with boxing?
So I just want to, continue to provide for my family and watch my son grow. My son is my world, man. How old? He's 2. He'll be 3 in September. So, whatever he wants to do. He's in the gym all the time. I don't know if he's going to box, but if he wants to box, I hope he's good. I hope he's better than me. And, he'll have some shoes to fill and hopefully surpass. But I won't train him. I don't think that's the thing. I don't think I would be as good as a trainer as to my son as my dad is to me. I could train anyone else, but my son, no. I'll let my dad handle that.
Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine that isn't more of a difficult. It has to be very purposeful and path to navigate, because it could be quite difficult for sure. Like you said, your dad's just really good at creating the boundary between, right now I'm your dad, and then later I'm going to be talking to you like your coach. And I don't think that's natural for a father and a son. I think that he's got to probably really be disciplined with that mindset and that's that approach. Yeah.
Especially because I've been there, I know what it takes, so it will be hard. It will be harder.
Yeah.
It definitely will be hard.
Yeah, well, we look forward to seeing what happens with your boy if he follows in his father's footsteps like you followed in your father's. And honestly, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you. I appreciate your time and getting to know you, and definitely Empire Boxing is firmly in your corner for your future endeavors.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. The love is felt. The love is real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure to listen, follow, and subscribe to Empire Boxing on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.